We're diving into a story of high stakes and strategic brilliance today.
Oh, absolutely.
A conflict found in the Book of Alma.
Okay.
Chapter 55. It's where we find the Nephite leader, Moroni, in a real predicament.
Uh-huh.
He needs to free Nephite prisoners held by Ammoron,
Right.
the leader of the Lamanites. But Moroni, he doesn't want unnecessary bloodshed.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in. You can see that tension in Alma 55.2.
Okay.
Moroni says, I will not exchange prisoners with Ammoron, save he will withdraw his purpose, as I have stated in my epistle, for I will not grant unto him that he shall have any more power than what he hath got.
So he's standing his ground.
Yeah, he is. He's not willing to compromise just for a quick resolution.
He's definitely frustrated. You can feel that in verse 3.
Oh, yeah?
He says, Behold, I know the place where the Lamanites do guard my people, whom they have taken prisoners. And as Ammoron would not grant unto me mine epistle, behold, I will give unto him according to my words. Yea, I will seek death among them until they shall sue for peace.
There's that warrior spirit.
Yeah.
But you also sense a glimmer of hope there. He's not just looking for a fight.
Yeah, he's not just going straight into battle.
He wants to resolve the conflict but minimize the suffering. That's where his strategic brilliance comes in.
I see.
Verse 4 tells us, And now it came to pass that when Moroni had said these words, he caused that a search should be made among his men, that perhaps he might find a man who was a descendant of Laman among them.
So he's not looking for just any soldier. He's looking for someone with Lamanite heritage. What's the significance of that?
Well, it seems to me he's already planning several moves ahead. He needs someone who can blend in, someone who understands the Lamanites, maybe even their language.
Interesting.
Like, he's already thinking of cunning and infiltration, not just brute force.
And they find the perfect candidate, right?
I do.
Verse 5 says, And it came to pass that they found one whose name was Laman, and he was one of the servants of the king who was murdered by Amalickiah.
It makes you think about this Laman's motivations.
Absolutely.
He has a past with the Lamanites, a personal connection to the people he's going to have to deceive. Adds another dimension to the story.
In verses 6 and 7, Moroni gives Laman his instructions. Now Moroni caused that Laman and a small number of his men should go forth unto the guards who were over the Nephites. Now the Nephites were guarded in the city of Gid. Therefore Moroni appointed Laman and caused that a small number of men should go with him.
Seems like a simple scouting mission at first, but knowing Moroni, I bet there's more to it.
But there's always more going on with him. He doesn't waste resources or take unnecessary risks.
Exactly. You get the feeling something bigger is about to happen.
So what does Laman do with this assignment?
Well, he goes under the cover of darkness, approaches the Lamanite guards, who you can imagine are probably a bit tired.
Right.
He pretends to be a fellow Lamanite, one who escaped from the Nephites.
Okay.
And to really sell the story, he offers them some wine, stolen wine.
Oh, I see. Playing on their weakness.
Exactly. That desire for a little relaxation, maybe some camaraderie.
So it's like he's using their strengths against them.
That's it. And it avoids a direct confrontation. Moroni wants to free these prisoners without a lot of bloodshed. This plan seems to fit that goal so far.
But do the Lamanite guards fall for it?
Oh, they do. Yeah. Completely. In verses 12 through 14.
Okay.
The Lamanite guards, they're tempted by this stolen wine. They drink freely. Soon they're completely intoxicated. Laman's tricked them.
So the stage is set.
It is. Moroni's plan is taking shape.
Those Lamanite guards have no idea what's coming next. This is getting good.
Oh, it is. With the Lamanite guards completely out of it, Moroni, he can finally make his move.
Right. This is where we really see his strategic thinking in action. He has to move quickly but quietly.
Exactly. It takes precision. And a good bit of daring. Verse 15 lays it out. And now this was according to the design of Moroni. And Moroni had prepared his men with weapons of war, and he went to the city Gid while the Lamanites were in a deep sleep and drunken, and cast in weapons of war into the prisoners, insomuch that they were all armed.
He's arming the prisoners.
It's a bold move.
Yeah, he's creating a force right inside the enemy's stronghold.
Turning the tables. And he keeps going. Verse 17, even to their women and all those of their children, as many as were able to use a weapon of war, when Moroni had armed all those prisoners, and all those things were done in a profound silence.
He's leaving nothing to chance. Everyone who can fight is armed.
Absolutely.
But can you imagine the tension, the need for absolute silence?
Oh, yeah. One wrong move, one little sound, and the whole plan could fall apart.
It's a high-stakes operation for sure.
Verse 18 really highlights that danger. But had they awakened the Lamanites, behold, they were drunken, and the Nephites could have slain them.
So Moroni, he's walking a fine line.
Yeah.
He wants to win, but he doesn't want unnecessary violence.
And we see that conflict in verse 19. But behold, this was not the desire of Moroni. He did not delight in murder or bloodshed, but he delighted in the saving of his people from destruction. And for this cause he might not bring upon him injustice. He would not fall upon the Lamanites and destroy them in their drunkenness.
It really speaks to his character, doesn't it?
Oh, it does.
He's a warrior, but he's also a man of principle.
Absolutely. He understands the true cost of war.
And by the end of verse 20, the first part of the plan is a success.
Yeah.
But he had obtained his desires, for he had armed those prisoners of the Nephites who were within the wall of the city, and had given them power to gain possession of those parts which were within the walls.
So now they have a fighting force ready to go, right there inside the city.
Ready to take it back.
But Moroni doesn't stop there.
No, she doesn't.
Verse 21, and then he caused the men who were with him to withdraw a pace from them and surround the armies of the Lamanites.
He's not messing around. He's got those Lamanites trapped.
Caught between a rock and a hard place. The prisoners inside Moroni's army outside.
Talk about a rude awakening.
Yeah, verse 22. Now behold, this was done in the nighttime, so that when the Lamanites awoke in the morning, they beheld that they were surrounded by the Nephites without, and that their prisoners were armed within.
What a situation to wake up to. They've been completely outmaneuvered.
They're trapped, they know it.
So what do?
They have only one option, really. Verse 23. And thus they saw that the Nephites had power over them, and in these circumstances they found that it was not expedient that they should fight with the Nephites. Therefore their chief captains demanded their weapons of war, and they brought them forth and cast them at the feet of the Nephites, pleading for mercy.
A bloodless victory.
Okay.
Exactly what Moroni was aiming for.
Incredible, really. He achieved his goal without a huge battle.
It really shows his leadership skills. Not only did he outsmart the Lamanites, but he showed mercy.
And look at what he does in verse 24. Now behold, this was the desire of Moroni. He took them prisoners of war and took possession of the city and caused that all the prisoners should be liberated, who were Nephites. And they did join the army of Moroni and were a great strength to his army.
He frees his own people and gains new recruits. A double win.
But I have a feeling the Lamanites, they're not going to just give up.
You're right. This is far from over.
In verse 25, Moroni, he starts fortifying the city. And it came to pass that he did cause the Lamanites, whom he had taken prisoners, that they should commence a labor in strengthening the fortifications round about the city Gid.
He's not taking any chances.
Yep. He's thinking ahead.
And it's not just Gid.
No, in verses 26 and 27, he also secures other strategic locations. And it came to pass that when he had fortified the city Gid, according to his desires, he caused that his prisoners should be taken to the city Bountiful, and he also guarded that city with an exceedingly strong force. And it came to pass that they did, notwithstanding all the intrigues of the Lamanites, keep and protect all the prisoners whom they had taken, and also maintain all the ground and the advantage which they had retaken.
So he's got it all planned out.
Moroni always does.
And it pays off. The Nephites start gaining strength again. Verse 28, and it came to pass that the Nephites began again to be victorious and to reclaim their rights and their privileges.
But like you said, the Lamanites, they're persistent.
Oh, yeah.
Verses 29 and 30. Many times did the Lamanites attempt to encircle them about by night, but in these attempts they did lose many prisoners, and many times did they attempt to administer of their wine to the Nephites that they might destroy them with poison or with drunkenness.
So now they're trying to use Laman's tactic against him.
It's ironic, isn't it?
Using that same weakness, that desire for wine. But the Nephites, they've learned their lesson.
They're not falling for that again. Verse 31. But behold, the Nephites were not slow to remember the Lord their God in this their time of affliction. They could not be taken in their snares, yea, they would not partake of their wine, save they had first given to some of the Lamanite prisoners.
I love that they remember the Lord in their time of need.
It's a powerful reminder for all of us.
And they're not just praying, they're also being practical. They test the wine to make sure it's safe.
Exactly. Faith and action going hand in hand.
And it works.
It does. Verse 32, and they were thus cautious that no poison should be administered among them. For if their wine would poison a Lamanite, it would also poison a Nephite. And thus they did try all their liquors.
So they're on guard, physically and spiritually.
They're ready for whatever comes next.
But what does come next for Moroni and his army? What new challenges await them?
Well, the chapter ends with a shift in focus. We move to a heavily fortified city called Morianton. Verses 33 and 34 tell us, And now it came to pass that it was expedient for Moroni to make preparations to attack the city Morianton. For behold, the Lamanites had, by their labors, fortified the city Morianton until it had become an exceeding stronghold. And they were continually bringing new forces into that city, and also new supplies of provisions.
Sounds like another tough battle is on the horizon.
It does. The Lamanites, they're digging in, preparing for a siege.
This conflict, it's far from over. Moroni is such a brilliant military leader, but it's really his faith that stands out to me.
Yeah. Even in the middle of all this conflict, he remembers to rely on God.
Like in verse 31. But behold, the Nephites were not slow to remember the Lord their God in this their time of affliction. They could not be taken in their snares. Yea, they would not partake of their wine, say they had first given to some of the Lamanite prisoners.
They knew true strength doesn't just come from military might.
It comes from a connection to something bigger.
Exactly. A connection to the divine.
That's something we can all relate to.
Absolutely. When we face challenges, remembering our faith.
Right. It gives us the strength to overcome those challenges.
And it's not just about hoping for a miracle. It's about faith and action.
Like with the Nephites, they prayed, but they also took practical steps to protect themselves.
They tested that wine, didn't just wait around. They were working with God.
It's inspiring to see how faith can make us more resourceful.
It can help us navigate those tough situations.
And the story, it doesn't end with the capture of Gid.
No, it doesn't.
Verse 35 hints at a bigger struggle. And thus ended the 29th year of the reign of the judges over the people of Nephi.
It reminds us that the fight for peace and righteousness,
Right.
it's a journey, a constant battle.
We'll always have new trials to face. But the Nephites, they teach us something important.
Yeah. Even when things are tough, faith can be a guiding light. It gives us hope and helps us keep going.